There's no describing the outrage on helpless people while it lasted. Jewish stores smashed and looted everywhere in Germany. Synagogues attacked and burned, sometimes blown up with dynamite. Jewish people beaten, maltreated, arrested. I wonder if you recall that news broadcast of mine of November 10th, 1938. It was the climax of the opening chapter of one of the most shocking news stories of our time, of all time. The infamous Kristallnacht, or Crystal Night, when Nazi mobs smashed the windows of Jewish shops, plundered synagogues, and beat up Jews in Germany and Austria. This was the beginning. The ending involved the murder of 6 million Jews as part of Nazi Germany's final solution to the Jewish problem. In this final solution, Adolf Eichmann was charged with rounding up the Jews of Europe, transporting millions in cattle cars across the continent, delivering them to the concentration camps, the factories of extermination. The last chapters of this unforgettable nightmare are now being written by newsmen crowded into Jerusalem's Beit Ham in Israel. Beit Ham meaning the house of the people, ironically turned into a courtroom where the unprecedented trial of Adolf Eichmann took place. During those first days of the trial, Nazi SS Lieutenant Colonel Aeyckmann, the grand executor of the final solution, the man who implemented the murder of 6 million human beings, stood stiffly at attention in his bulletproof cage, and as the world watched, Adolf Eichmann answered the charges.
Do you plead guilty or not guilty to the 9th count in the indictment?
Schuldig oder nicht schuldig? Im Sinne der Anklage nicht schuldig.
In the spirit of the indictment, not guilty. Do you plead guilty or not guilty? Do you plead guilty or not guilty to the 12th count? Guilty to the 13th count.
Schuldig oder nicht schuldig? Im Sinne der Anklage nicht schuldig.
Guilty or not guilty to the 14th count.
Anklagepunkt schuldig oder nicht schuldig? Im Sinne der Anklage nicht schuldig.
Do you plead guilty or not guilty to the 15th count?
Anklagepunkt schuldig oder nicht schuldig? Im Sinne der Anklage nicht schuldig.
In the spirit of the indictment, I am not guilty, said Adolf Eichmann. He denied responsibility for the butchering of innocent people, the senseless cruelties to women and small children, the wiping out of 6 million lives. Through his attorney, Dr. Robert Servatius, Eichmann even protested being tried by the state of Israel. Tried at all. He said that he'd been illegally seized, kidnapped, and brought to Israel against his will.
Whether he is guilty or not, I wish to voice here 2 reservations. The suspicion of prejudice and the lack of authority of this court. The exclusion of one of the judges may arise from the fact that one of the judges himself, or relatives, or members of his family, were involved in the acts referred to in the indictment. This is possible and arises out of the fact that the whole Jewish nation was concerned in this catastrophe of extermination. The fear of the possibility of bias exists, therefore, with regard to all the judges to the same extent.
The prosecutor Gideon Hausner, representing 6 million dead victims of the Nazi Holocaust, answered Eichmann's protest.
This is the argument. Since you are the victims,
מכיוון שאתם נפגעתם,
since you were affected,
אולי בני משפחותיכם נפגעו,
maybe members of your family
ואתם
were
היהודים
affected,
לא
you, the
תשפטו
Jews,
את
will not sit in judgment upon Adolf
ישפטו אותו
Eichmann.
כאלה שלא נפגעו.
He will be judged by people who were not affected.
ישפטו אותו ניטרלי.
Let him be judged by neutral persons.
Attorney General Hausner then quoted a precedent from English law.
If it were true, then no spy could be given a legal trial, because his case is always heard by judges representing the enemy country. Yet no one has ever argued that in such cases it was necessary to call on neutral judges. The prisoner has the right to demand that his judges shall be fair, but not that they shall be neutral.
The defense declared that he has applied to his government for that government to request the extradition of Eichmann and to bring him to judgment in Germany. I declare in the name of the government that such a request did not arrive to the government in Israel, and at this moment, when the accused stands here in judgment before you, no one demands the right to bring him to justice except the State of Israel.
Based on legal precedents set by other nations, the three judges ruled that it was proper for Eichmann to be tried by an Israeli court in Israel. But there in the Beit Ham, there in the house of the people, more than just a man was on trial. The conscience of the entire world was being called to account for allowing such inhumanities ever to have occurred. It was of paramount importance then that the whole world see, hear, and understand the causes and the consequences, the price that must be paid should this ever be allowed to happen again. This job could only be done by a world mass communications medium. Through the eyes of the television camera and by means of videotape, the whole world had a front row seat in the Beit Ha'am. The cast was complete, and the historic courtroom drama was about to begin.
In this trial, we shall also encounter a new kind of killer. The kind that exercises his bloody craft behind a desk, and only occasionally does the deed with his own hands. But it was his word that put gas chambers into action. He lifted the telephone, and railroad cars left for the extermination centers. His signature it was that sealed the doom of thousands and tens of thousands. We shall find Eichmann describing himself as a fastidious person, a white-collar worker. To him, the decree of extermination was just another written order to be executed.
His accomplices in the crime were neither gangsters nor men of the underworld, but leaders of a nation, including professors and scholars, robed dignitaries with academic degrees, linguists, men of enlightenment, the intelligentsia.
Finally, 16 years after Eichmann eluded capture as a war criminal, the witnesses began their testimony, began telling the shocking stories of Eichmann's transports.
I saw the transport leaving. I heard the cries. I saw the beatings. I saw the shootings. I saw them being murdered.
Mr. Hausner, whom? You mean those who refused to enter the train? You mean you saw people being shot and beaten when they refused to enter the train?
On the following morning, an SS man, Laufman, I remember his name, Laufman. Came in and said, I know that you're very hungry. For 3 days you've had no food. But when the miners come home from the night shift, something will remain, and then you'll get that food. We knew that there was some trick here. And when he finished saying this, a pot was brought into the room. We thought there was food in it. He took one boy after the other, put his head into the pot, and shot him in the nape of the neck.
The Nazi caught the woman with a baby in her arms, about 18 months old. She held the baby in her arms and began asking for mercy, that she be shot first and leave the baby alive. From behind the fence, there were Polish people who raised their hands ready to catch the baby. She was about to hand the baby over the fence. The Nazi took the baby from her arms, shot the woman twice, and then took the baby in his hands and tore him as one would tear a rag.
For some, the recollection of events long past was still too much to bear.
Yes, I stayed there, and I was always left behind. I can still see them gazing at me. I saw them in the queue.
Could I perhaps, Mr. Dinur, put a few questions to you if you will consent? President of Court, Mr. Dinur, please listen to Mr. Hausner and to me.
Please stay in your seats. Please be good enough and remain where you are. Please sit.
And then he aimed at me. First he held on to my hand and turned my head around. And he aimed the revolver at me and ordered me to watch again, turning my head around and shot at me. Then I fell. I fell to the ground and into the pit amongst the many dead bodies, but I felt nothing. The moment I did feel, I felt a sort of heaviness. And then I thought, maybe I am not alive anymore. But I feel something after I died. I thought I was dead. But this was the feeling which comes after death. Then I felt that I was choking, people falling over me. I tried to move and felt that I was alive and that I could rise. I was strangling. I heard the shots, and then I was praying for another bullet to put an end to my suffering.
And what answers had Adolf Eichmann for 6